Hello, 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 and welcome to the very first episode of the Under Adria's Wings podcast. But before I dive in, I would like to give you guys a brief introduction on who I am and what Under Adria Wings is about. So, my name is Chavon Bell Williams, and I am the founder and CEO of the Under Adria's Wings Youth Organization. And here we provide guidance and support for children ages 5 to 17 who are grieving the loss of a parent or guardian. And our mission is to help as many children as possible navigate the grieving process through peer support and mentoring. Now, I founded this organization because at the age of 24, that's when I lost my mom to metastatic breast cancer. And she was only 52 years old. And this was back in 2008. So 13 years. And the grief process has been a very interesting one, to say the least. So in my moments of grief and despair or whatever else you would like to call it, uh, there was this moment when I was like, "Oh my god, if I am having, such a hard time, what about the kids, who lost a parent?" Because I was 24, I was considered an adult, right? And so I thought about just the kids who are still finding themselves, who are going through the self identity process, and then to have their parents, their creator, who the person who gave life to them, transition and leave Earth could be so daunting. So that was put on my heart, and from there I started the organization. So here we are today. Starting out again and just hoping to reach as many kids as possible. So, for this first episode, going to be very basic, just to talk about what is grief. Okay, so what is grief? The dictionary defines grief as deep sorrow, especially that is caused by someone's death. And it is sorrow, but grief is just so much more. And doing my grieving journey, and I'm still on it, and I'll be on it until the last days or whatnot. But during my journey, I've learned that there was nothing in a textbook that could have prepared me for everything that I went through. You know, you know how they have the 5 stages of grief, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, right? So you have those 5 stages, and you so according to the textbooks, you can go through those stages. The first one where you're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this person is gone." Then you become upset with them, and then you beg God or you beg your creator, what, if this happens, and I promise I'll do this. Then you have your period of depression where you're sad, you're just out of it. And then acceptance, you accept, okay, they're really gone, right? But for me, it was total opposite. Like, I went through the acceptance process first. I was like, everything happens for a reason. God called her home for, whatever. So I accepted it early on, you know, but so my stages, quote unquote, were totally out of whack according to um textbook knowledge, textbook criteria or whatnot. But what I learned also was that everybody's grief journey is different, right? No two people grieve the same. And grief is also not a bad word. When you, in our society, let me say this, in our society, we don't talk a lot about grief. We don't talk a lot about mental health, especially, but grief, for whatever reason, grief has like this stigma around it, so to say, where it just isn't shed light on like it should. So this is why I started this podcast too, and why I started the organization, to let people know that it is okay to grieve. That grieving is a part of life. because at some point we're all going to lose somebody, right? That's just how it works. So to not shed the light on it that needs to happen is kind of like bewildering to me. So that's why I'm here to do my part to let um the children know, whoever's listening to this know, whoever I come into contact with know that grieving is okay. Grieving is natural. Grieving is what you're supposed to do. And it's not anything that you should feel bad about or that you should have to conceal because it's a part of life. So I've learned and I'm still learning and like there's no ending to it. There's like no finish line in my opinion. What you do is you just learn to cope with it. You learn to cope with it. And that's what gets you through those tough days. You start to look at it like, okay, this is a part of me now, right? And that's okay, because grief isn't always bad either. Grief can be you thinking of good memories, or you coming across the picture and the grief comes over you. But instead of feeling the sadness, you look at the picture and you remember the memories or the situations surrounding that picture and it makes you happy. But a lot of these things aren't talked about like it should be. So I just wanted to hop on really quickly and let the first episode be about like what is grief. But like what really is grief? Grief, everyone has their own definition of it. And is how it applies to you that makes it what it is. And my goal by doing this podcast, by having an organization, is to let people feel more comfortable about speaking about it and to not have to suffer in silence. So I'm going to end it right here. And I'm going to say that grief is a journey. Grief is interesting, and grief is not bad. Grief is what you make of it. So that's it for this first episode. Just a quick dive in on what grief is and what it was to me. In our next episode, we'll talk about grief in children because that's who our organization is centered around, right? But if you know of any child ages 5 to 17 who are going through the grieving journey and who needs assistance, please, please, please reach out to us at info at underadriaswings.com. That's our email. We have a website, www.underadriaswings.com. Also on Facebook and Instagram at Under Adria's Wings. Reach out to us if you have any questions. We're always here. We don't want you guys to go through this alone. So have an amazing day, and I'll see you in our next episode.